Hi, this is Ravi Dahiya. I just want to explain a treatment we're about to do. So nowadays, fillers under the eyes or tear troughs have become incredibly popular. It's a nice non-surgical way to improve that area, so that part makes sense, but unfortunately a lot of times fillers are used inappropriately there, and by that I mean in terms of which filler is used and how they're kind of distributed into the area. So in terms of which filler, a lot of times I will see patients have had hyaluronic acid, and there are lots of different brands. I won't name all of them. There are probably a good dozen different hyaluronic acid fillers. Hyaluronic acid fillers in general are great fillers. I use them for lips, nasolabial folds, in cheeks, but I do not like them in the tear trough. The tear trough is a very unique anatomic area because there's lots of, the skin is very, very thin there. And so that poses a few problems. One is, if you just look at the physical nature of hyaluronic acid, it's a crystal-like structure. So when it's close to the surface of thin skin, when light hits it, it reflects this bluish hue. That's called the Tyndall effect, Tyndall. So that's something we see not all the time, but more often than we would like to see when patients have had filler in that area, and obviously nobody wants that bluish color there. It sort of looks like a bruise, basically. Another physical feature of hyaluronic acid that's not desirable for this area is that they are hydrophilic, which means they attract water. So that creates this sort of puffiness, which obviously defeats the purpose of filling that area. We're trying to make things look cosmetically better, not worse. The third physical trait of hyaluronic acid fillers that's not ideal is that they're gels, so they don't spread very well. I much prefer Sculptra because it's a liquid, so it's going to spread much more smoothly and evenly than a hyaluronic acid filler. And it doesn't have those two other physical features. It's not hydrophilic, and it's not going to create that Tyndall effect. So step one is using the right material. So again, I'm really, really against hyaluronic acid there. The other big issue is how the fillers are used. So too often the fillers are focused right in the central cheek and just there. And what I see a lot happening is that, initially filler is put in, it doesn't give the complete result, the desired result, so the solution often becomes just adding more. So then what happens is an area like this can get overcorrected, overfilled, so we're starting to see the puffiness of the skin there. And what gets neglected is really the rest of the mid-face. The face has to be seen holistically. You can't just look at one part of the face. You've got to understand how volume is changing throughout the face, and we lose volume particularly in the mid-face. So if we don't address all of those areas, things start to look out of sync and not balanced. So choice of filler is one, but the other is distribution. We've really got to spread volume throughout the mid-face so everything looks even and smooth. Correcting this can be a real challenge because first step is really to reduce the existing filler. So unfortunately that means we're going to be deflating that area to an extent. What I'm going to do today is actually reduce some of this fullness. There's an enzyme that can break up hyaluronic acid fillers, and then we're going to start replacing volume in areas that have not been addressed. So we're correcting two things: the distribution by adding into other areas, kind of feathering the volume so it all looks more in harmony, and then we're also getting rid of the type of filler that I think causes a lot of the problems. So we'll start with using, again, an enzyme to kind of melt this, and then I'll be slowly layering in the Sculptra. So first step is, like I mentioned, we're going to be dissolving some of the existing filler. And it's something that's visible. You can see just the slightest bluishness. You can tell that it's a little puffy or edematous during when smiling, big smile. And with smiling, you can often see that skin even more bunched up. And now go ahead and relax. So this, and I can definitely feel it. It almost feels like jelly, yeah. And you can see there's fullness here and nothing here. So this is what I mean by out of balance. Lots of volume, no volume. We want that balanced out more. So we're going to start, and you're going to feel a little pinch here. And the nice thing about this enzyme is it literally works right away. And sometimes this can take a couple of treatments, a couple of injections, because I'm injecting a liquid which is occupying some volume as it's going in. So sometimes it can be a little hard to tell if I got everything that I wanted to. So already I can feel a difference. Feels better already, less of that sort of jelly roll. We are dissolving the hyaluronic acid, yep. And we're gonna do a little bit more. And this is the part, patients get nervous about, and it makes sense. Like, you started out doing fillers because there's a loss of volume, and here we are sort of taking a step backwards. We're reducing volume. Again, in a situation where initially the whole goal was to add volume. But luckily what we can do today is, because there are two different anatomic spots, is I can work to reduce here, but then start adding here. I mentioned earlier all the great things about sculpture. That one negative or relative drawback is it just takes time to see the results of the sculpture. It can take a good 2 to 3 months. I'm just trying to feel, because now I'm trying to assess how much of the hyaluronic acid I've been successful at removing. So I'm going to do it just a little bit more, and then we'll move on to the more fun part, which is adding some good volume. Check that out.
Wow.
Right?
Yep.
Do you see it?
Wow.
Do you see how smooth that transition is?
Yep.
And seriously.
That's amazing. That's amazing.
Right? And this is, I'll try to touch more there, but again, I'm going to be replacing that.
Yep.
With more of this stuff.
Okay. Awesome.
Isn't that cool?
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you for sticking to the end of this video on how to remove bad fillers. Unfortunately, it's something I have to do more and more of, but the good news is it's very possible to do. It's just a stepwise process. First, we have to remove the filler and then replace it with a better filler. So though the process can take some time, it can really work and still end up with some beautiful results. Most importantly, try to avoid bad fillers. So that takes some research, making sure you're going to someone who's well-trained and experienced in fillers. And if you find yourself in a situation where it seems like the answer to the first time that you get a bad injection is more of the same, avoid it. Go somewhere else and seek a second opinion.